Hello and welcome to Quartzlight, your car brochure channel. Today's episode, the Toyota Cressida. Welcome back, and Quartzlight, if you don't know, we're a small YouTube channel looking at car brochures from around the world, so if that might interest you, please consider subscribing. Anyway, back to today's episode, the Toyota Cressida. This particular one, first launched in 1976, ran till 1980. So why don't we get straight on with it and look at the brochure. Okay, so here is today's brochure, the Toyota Cressida, or should we call it the Toyota Mark II. Cressida was never a name used in Japan themselves, but in some export markets, and this is the UK brochure, they use the name Cressida. And it was marketed between 1976 and 1992 across 4 generations. This is a 1977 brochure, so it's the first of those generations. The car itself looks a little bit sort of Americanized, certainly from the side. I don't know if they tried to make it a little bit European with these round headlamps, I'm not sure. Not a car I really remember too well, and I'm sure it would be an extremely rare car in the UK. You know, it would have been a typical 70s car suffering from rust, I'm sure, and obviously not a popular seller over here. But anyway, let's open up and have a look at the brochure. First page opens up to show the interior of the car with the doors removed, obviously, and it does look a very sort of 70s look, doesn't it? It's nothing forward thinking, I don't think. We got all these sort of like bright work on here, a wooden shift knob, unusual, but you know, a very dark place, and it does remind me of the 70s very much, without the brown, I guess. Anyway, there is some text to one side, so let's have a look at that now. So this brochure starts off very strange. Like I said at the start there, I said this brochure was June 77, and then straight away it says the Cressida is Toyota's new 2-litre family car for the 80s. That's a very strange thing to put on there. Are we kind of like trying to think towards the 80s, you know, making us feel like we've got, you know, a futuristic car? I'm not sure, but by the 80s, you know, this Mark 1 was pretty much finished and was looking towards Mark 2s, but so that's a strange thing to write. It then goes on to say, setting new standards of luxury and economy in the 2-litre saloon and estate car class. It is generously proportioned inside as well as out, and has been designed for the increasing energy conscious world which we live. And it goes on and on and on and on. As this particular brochure, it is very wordy. It's not a long brochure, but very wordy, so we don't have time to read all that. So let's go on to the next page. We turn the page, you can see how wordy this brochure continues. Nice look at that interior shot though, isn't it? And I think we'll just zoom in a bit on that as well. But you can see it's an unusual brochure in that, you know, it's to one side, so it makes a very long brochure. But anyway, let's zoom in on that dashboard because it looks an interesting place to sit behind. So I've started by zooming right in on that steering wheel because what an unusual sort of like a wooden insert it's got on there. That's certainly a little bit unusual, but you know, 70s, we've got a rev counter, so you know, it's not badly equipped. This unusual little badge on the steering wheel, which I think is worth zooming in on because it's a little bit unusual, isn't it? And you can see there's not one, there's not two, but there's 3 horn buttons on this steering wheel. And this very 70s dash, really, with these sort of circular vents and this clock and this sliding along sort of heater, and that very elderly radio. It really does date it. You can see that sort of 4-speed manual gearbox there, but it's also giving us a clue that there is a option of an automatic as well. Then we get to this very wordy page. We'll zoom in on some of the images, but and then we'll kind of like pick some key points out there, I think. And then we look at the rear. Kind of feel it's a little bit dated. Lots of chrome on it though, chrome bumpers, chrome surrounds the rear lamps there, chrome surrounds the number plate, nice chrome badging on it. Only, steel wheels, however, but a very large boot area, and it kind of like picks that point out with the large boot, really showing how generous that boot is. And then this unusual picture showing the door opening for whatever reason. So a couple of interesting things that caught my eye on this. First of all, it's telling us about this very basic looking push button AM radio, but it has got the provision to mount a stereo tape deck below. The tapes for which you may like to keep in the box under the center armrest. Very nice, and it kind of like goes through the little features that it's got, trying to show it's got more features really than the equivalent British car at the time, which is kind of like how the Japanese market really moved on, by throwing in these little extra bits and pieces. But if we look at the engine, and like I say, the engine was just one choice in the UK. They got, elsewhere you got things like 6 cylinders, etc., but just a 4-cylinder engine. It's Toyota's 18R. 18R is just like the code name for the engine. That particular engine was also used on many different cars as well. 4-cylinder, 1968 cc. And I think they use that 18R between 71 and 81 on many different cars. So we're talking of things like the Celica, the Hilux, the Corona. So lots of different models did actually use that particular unit code name 18R. And it's unusual to see them using the code name in the brochure. You don't really see that very often. Showing there uprated to 85 bhp in this particular circumstance. And other key features on this, let's have a look what else. I think it tells you a little bit about the performance on there as well. So top speed 100 miles per hour, 97 for the auto. It's telling you it's happily cruising at 90. I don't know why it's advertising you want to be doing 90, but that really is the beauty of these old brochures. They don't really care. Anyway, let's look at the next page. So the next page is showing the estate, and what a wonderful large estate it was. Another very rare Toyota today, of course. So yeah, UK we could get both that saloon and the estate, which was nice. But like I said at the start, we can only get one trim level, which was unusual. It was badged deluxe, as in DELUXE, deluxe, and that was the trim, the only trim. Not to be confused by some other Toyota models which just used the badge DL, which meant deluxe, but it was just DL. This was slightly higher than that sort of DL badge. This was the deluxe, with extra little features in it basically, but it's just unusual, isn't it? There was only one engine choice, only one trim level. Kind of like, I guess they're trying to like find the feats really in the UK at this time. Anyway, let's have a look at some of the text there for the estate. So a nice little image starting off with this sort of low-lipped estate. Very practical car by the looks of it. It says if you're in need of the extra load carrying capacity that is offered by estate car motoring, you need look no further than the Cressida estate. The specification is identical to the saloon, but with uprated leaf sprung rear suspension. We at Toyota do not believe in downgrading the specification of our estate cars. As it carries on, you're kind of like promoting there for you to tow your caravan. Towing capacity 23.6. And then it says estate or saloon. Either way, spacious, well-equipped luxury will be yours with the new Toyota Cressida range. Back page now, and the specification page, and a glimpse of that engine, that code name 18R, if you remember. Here are the specifications for that particular engine. I'm not going to read it all out, but you certainly feel free to pause the screen at any time. Manual gearbox has a 4-speed unit. The automatic is a 3-speed. A little bit of information about the clutch and the final drive there. And then over here, interestingly, it's showing those performance figures again. Maximum speed for the manual 100, auto 97, but then they added this extra line, the maximum cruising speed 10 miles an hour less. Miles per gallon, it's showing the saloon 29.7, auto 26.6, quite a drop for that automatic really, isn't it? And I presume this is just averages. And then what else have we got? Steering, bit of information there about the brakes, front discs, rear drums, suspension, wheels and tyres, and then the equipment level. So that's all the equipment the saloon had on it. Like I say, for the time it wasn't really too bad. I mean, little things like intermittent wipers were, you know, quite a big deal. That was quite advanced, or not really advanced, but very forward to throw these on your only model you have, so to speak. And then the estate as well, the equipment levels, which does actually continue at the top here. So pretty well equipped, and like I say, that's how Toyota really got its name, and that's how it sold its cars. Some of the dimensions, and then the Toyota and the Cressida badge. And then this is kind of like the bit of a publication number, CRE, and it goes 677, so June 1977. And the sort of UK or GB address at the time. I just quickly pulled this out. This was like you could actually get other Japanese alternatives. You could get this nice 2-litre Datsun Laurel if you really want to. It's almost like Mercedes-esque front grille, so we'll have to have a look at that particular brochure at some time. But I was also looking at this. This is probably what we think of more familiar when we think of the Cressida, or at least I do, in this very 80s brochure, 1981. A much more familiar design, and we've got different models at this time, 81 as well. So we've got diesels, and now we've got a GL model, much more familiar dashboard, and we've still got a nice big estate as well. So these are the cars I do remember very well. I don't particularly remember this one very well at all. So a very rare car today. So that comes to the end of today's episode, and what I'll always say is, if you've got any memories of this particular car, do jot that in the comments, although I can't really think that many people have got memories of this particular one today. But anyway, thank you so much for watching Quarterlight. Please do like and subscribe. We'll see you very soon. Take care and goodbye.